Hello and welcome back to our part 2 of describing common TCP/IP based attacks. As we start to put some of these terms reviewed previously together into what is known as attack surfaces and attack vectors, we want to keep in mind that it's not just the operating system, or it's not just the application. It's not just on this one physical piece of gear, or this one software, or this one method of access, or in this one location. It's all of these put together, and when vulnerabilities are found in the right combination, or even across multiple different areas, multiple different surfaces, the probability of your attack goes up from there. So the first thing we talk about here is going to be the network attack surface. Is this going to be something that might be a vulnerability within inside of a protocol stack of a particular vendor, and you're using that entire vendor on every device throughout your physical network? Well, now the network attack surface goes up. Is it going to be a software attack surface where this vulnerability is within inside of an operating system? And you heard me say it a moment ago, I'm going to say it again. That operating system is the operating system of choice and is the operating system for every service, every server within your organization. Then again, our physical attack surface, compounding these vulnerabilities, again, our network and our software within one location, maybe a highly exposed branch office or a highly exposed corporate office. And then let's also never forget, you will hear me say this again, time and time again, that the human is often the weakest link, the human attack surface. For example, I have myself a large deployment of employees that have not been properly trained and properly set in a security mindset that are all accessing our corporate resources from afar, maybe traveling, maybe from home. And then they're accessing these corporate resources in an insecure manner, maybe, for example, not over a VPN. And then again, we continue on there, ways to launch attacks to our now exposed, physically and software-wise exposed enterprise network by starting off with a reconnaissance attack, identifying what IPs are out there and then what services are running on those IPs. And by the way, as we start to move through our concepts, through our review, we're going to go into more details on each of these and even give you some specific examples. So we have, if you will, thanks to reconnaissance, known addresses and known services on known ports. Now we can start identifying known vulnerabilities. For example, and by the way, I'm not just making this stuff up. There are actual services out there, actual databases out there that maintain, unfortunately, but it's true, maintain, if it's this operating system, this service, this revision, these are known vulnerabilities, and use these tools to launch attacks against those vulnerabilities. Some examples of launching options might be SQL injection. As its name says, injecting false or malinformation into the fields of our database forms. Phishing, again, doing various reconnaissance-based attacks that are going to be based upon mail, email, spam messages. How about malware, as the slide is saying here, short for malicious software, but more specifically, mal being bad, malware being bad software. And then again, maybe something inherent into an operating system or to an application or to a method of connection, which might be just a weak form of authentication. One of the things that is really, really huge these days is using maybe two-factor authentication, using some key fob, whether it be a physical or software-based token. Continuing with our reconnaissance attack, where the ultimate objective is to learn more about a network, to map out the network so you can better launch attacks in a more educated manner from there. So please understand that we can use many mechanisms along the protocol stack to perform various different mappings or discoveries of the target network, whether it be IP addresses, DNS, UDP, TCP-based, even doing ping sweeps to identify addresses and ports, as well as mapping out operating systems and applications on those target machines. So some of the tools that are going to be available would be packet sniffers to gather information that's just normally traveling across a network. Once again, ping sweeps to identify what addresses may be on a particular subnet or network. Once we identify those addresses from the sweep, we can do an additional kind of sweep, but more of a port scan against a specific IP to identify the services that might be running on that IP, and then go deeper still into the discovered systems to see how they might be known or what might be known about them in public domains or public registries. And give us a couple seconds because we're going to use some specific DNS based queries that address the information queries scenario mentioned here. Now, when we discuss deeper reconnaissance, understand that the reconnaissance options, the ways to map out a network, to learn more about a network, fall into one of two categories, whether they are going to be passive reconnaissance or active reconnaissance. The passive reconnaissance is going to be using more of just what generally travels across the wire to learn about a network or learn about the services that are provided. So login information, resources, websites that might be accessed using normal human activity or human reactions by way of social engineering. More of an active reconnaissance might be some of the things that we talked about a moment ago. Again, doing a ping sweep, just jumping around a little bit here. Actually, what I'm doing is jumping around in more of an order that I have taken in the past while doing more of a posture assessment of a customer's network. So again, ping sweeps to identify what addresses are actually out there. Based upon live addresses, doing port scans to see what services may be running on those live addresses. And then going in even deeper and trying to identify what operating systems and what applications might be on that port at that specific discovered IP address. Now, again, using this information that we have gathered about a network, again, the result of reconnaissance to now launch attacks on systems. So a couple of times up until this slide right here, we've mentioned using DNS. Well, you can do a whois, you can do an NS lookup to find out more information that is publicly known in a registry, again, the DNS namespace. There are even robots.txt files that are used to gather information on a destination of interest. Folks, there are benign tools that are used by some people that could be used in a malicious manner by other people. For example, I use Nmap and a port scan feature of Nmap for my regular benign efforts. But again, they can be used to same steps to map out a network. And then there are many, many different vulnerability scanners out there. My goodness, this is a whole category, a whole conversation we're going to have later. But I do want to make sure that you're aware in all of these tools, as hopefully we have mentioned enough, they can be used in a benign manner or a malicious manner. But what you should absolutely take caution over is understand the acceptable use policies within your organization before you start using these tools in a blind manner that if you don't let people know, hey, I'm using these in a benign manner to do more of a posture assessment to see if the security mechanisms I'm putting into place in my network are actually working, this could actually land you in some trouble. So be careful when you decide to use them